Okay. Does anyone have anything they'd like to share or comment or ask any questions this morning?
Master Kim, this is Jan.
Yes.
I had an unusual experience this morning when we were doing the laying down meditation and the chakras. I had the distinct image that as I was meditating on the dantian in the heart, my body was a pan of chocolate loaf cake. And the more that I was bringing chi into my body, the loaf of chocolate cake was rising, and then it was rising so much it split along the top, and then I was done.
I have to admit, Ms. Katz, in all the years I've been doing this, that is a first. I don't actually even know how to respond to that one. Tell me more. Is it if when the chocolate split rose to a point where it got split? Is that a good experience, or?
Well, yes. Lately, I've been having trouble feeling warmth in the dantian, and I read an article yesterday about digestive fire, and it's a kind of a Ayurvedic concept of increasing your digestive fire. And I thought, well, that's about the spot of the dantian. So I've been thinking about food as an element of your chakras. And this morning I turned into a chocolate cake. So.
Okay, that's very good. That's very powerful. I really like that. You know, it's really, you know, it really shows the power of the intuition and the intuitive. And you never know how the answers are gonna come. It's one of the reasons why I really enjoy these discussions and these sharings, because in these you get to really see how different we are, even as we share the same principles. And what comes to us in intuition for things to start working is absolute. Like, for instance, you're correct. Actually, when the lower dantian engages and the fire starts engaging, what actually really engages is the digestive fire. And the three fires, it's actually called the three burners, sanjia. The three burners, the triple warmer, is it called, is the lower dantian and the middle dantian and the upper dantian. And they're called the three burners. And it's a bit more complex because there's the energetic part and there's a physical part. But it actually deals with your entire it's how should I say, organ system, where, let's say, for instance, your heart and your lung, they're considered to be what brings the external oxygen and then circulates it through your whole system. And then you've got the liver, the stomach, the pancreas, and your spleen that basically breaks it. And then you've got the rest, your kidneys, your small intestine, and your large intestine, and your urinary tracts, and your reproductive system. And the way it kind of looks at it is that after it gets broken down from the middle jiao, so the oxygen and the blood brings in the combustion, and then the middle jiao breaks it down, and then it gets absorbed and eliminated from the lower jiao, or the lower dantian. And so that's, or the lower burner. And the lower dantian correlates with the lower burner. And so the experience that you're having actually is really spot on. It's just, I would have never thought someone would use chocolate cake as a means to bring that about and bring about that healing.
It wasn't by intent, it just happened, Master Kim.
Oh, that's even better. that's even better. So, oh,
Yeah, I'm
very
getting better at following the Tao. The Tao took me to chocolate cake today.
well. I gotta say, whatever works. So,
Thank you, Master Kim.
you're welcome. That is hilarious. So, thank you for sharing that.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Okay. So, does anyone else have anything else they'd like to share, comment on, or ask any questions of this morning's practice, especially?
I had a question about meditation and the bubble. If you're open to taking a question about that.
Yes. Go ahead.
Thank you so much.
Welcome.
So I had an experience which has kind of been an ongoing thing that I've been working with, where I was meditating last night, and well, I guess by meditating, I really mean I was just kind of sitting still and then like seeing what was coming to me, and kind of following my awareness. And as I was doing that, I started to feel all of my chakras light up, and it was feeling really bright, and it felt great. And then as I was just kind of sitting there, it felt like all of a sudden someone turned the lights off, and it all just disappeared and went away. And it kind of felt like almost like if it it felt really unpleasant, like almost like all the chakras kind of inverted, and they were all like gross and dark and damp. And I have basically, I'm kind of wondering what to do when that happens. And I think what I was sort of trying to do was just stay connected to the spaciousness and let it move through. But what I have been finding is that when that happens, I feel like I just get kind of lost, and I kind of lose track. I mean, there's a feeling where like when I start, especially lately when you've been teaching about the focus, linking that to the feeling of connection in the heart, that's been like, oh wow, focus has never been easier. I've been able to, because it feels so good. And connecting with the spaciousness, even if something feels negative, I can feel the space and it will move through. But sometimes I have these experiences where it kind of just it's working, and then it kind of just shuts down really quickly, and then I kind of get, and feels like I just get lost, and I kind of lose track of what I'm doing and lose track of the releasing. And I don't know if I just need to like do it enough times, because I was sort of thinking, well, my original intention for meditating was just to like feel sleepy so I could go to sleep, and I definitely accomplished that. So I mean, anything extra was kind of bonus. But I was just curious. Yeah, I guess the other thing that feels relevant too is like sometimes in morning class we talk about connecting to the feeling of like your parents. When you feel the vastness of the sky, it's kind of like feeling your father, or like, I feel like held by the earth, it's kind of like feeling your mother. A lot of times that feels really good, but then sometimes it's like my mind just kind of flips it, and I feel like they're against me, and then it's like it's hard to get out of that that feeling. I kind of freeze up and get distracted. I've had trouble just staying with the space and letting that move through. So
Got it. Okay. So thank you for sharing that. That's when you're doing these practices and things shut down like that, oftentimes it actually has to do with feeling disconnected in your feelings, in your emotions. from yourself, actually, where, something, where, some part of your emotions are not being faced in an authentic way, that allows you to feel actually yourself. And when I say yourself, I mean as in like your divine self, meaning as in like where you feel like you're, that probably the best experiences, in the experience that you just mentioned, like where your parents are the heavens and the earth, that's like a very deeply connected experience. And it feels like you're a child of divinity, or you're a child of God, if you will. And, it's just an experience that you feel like just whole. It's poetically, that's probably how it's expressed. And so, when you feel misaligned in some way with yourself, then ironically, you also feel misaligned with the greater whole of, the universe or the divinity, or however you want to express that. And it's an interesting thing, and that's when you feel disconnected from the whole thing. And it's actually the most actually dark feeling or disparaging feeling, where you feel abandoned, if you will, and you feel really alone. And I think they call it the dark night of the soul, poetically expressed. And those are the things that happens. And when we try and use, so these practices, like as you said, focus, where you bring focus, and focus is the experience of union, where not when we're forcing it, but when we're just naturally just bringing on natural kind of a relaxance of focus, where our pupils are dilating and things like that. Those are the physiological phenomenon of love. When like true lovers are looking and gazing into each other's eyes, and just your attention is undivided and just naturally held, right? And undivided attention is how, from a physiological perspective, we define love. So now, once you start learning these practices, it's not uncommon for us to divide against ourselves. And what I mean by that is that we start thinking that we can just do these physical practices and then feel better. And then, that will take care of it. And then it becomes reductionistic in some ways. And it becomes a bit controlling, where we don't even realize it, but now spiritual experiences have become in some way materialized, where we can just control our physical body and then produce, if you will, the right neurochemicals, and then just feel the way we want to feel. Now, the interesting thing is that we're not made to be that way. And if we're feeling something and then we try and adjust our physical body to go against how it's feeling, it actually doesn't work. And so, most likely from the way you described it, there's a feeling that's actually probably not being felt or addressed or being looked at in a way that actually feels good to you. And most of the time we don't look at them because there's a lot of fear about, what if we look at this and we find out, there's something wrong with the way we're looking at things. And another way to say this, there's a lot of shame. And what that means is that fear about who we are, fear about how we dealt with something. And the traditions basically say that basically you are a product of the Tao, and from a Taoist perspective, and that your true self is Te, virtue. And so to remember that no matter what happens, that you cannot be virtue, that you are virtue. And it doesn't say that what you do is virtue. It says that, and then, it shows that we can make mistakes, or if we look at it from a broader perspective, it shows that things can happen that we need to correct, but that never actually impacts our divinity, and that the reason these errors happen can happen for many different reasons. That actually the reason they happen is because that was part of your destiny, from and it treats, from another perspective, from, let's say, for instance, a Buddhist perspective, you are Buddha nature. From a Christian perspective, you're Christ nature, and that's your true nature, and that you're a child of God. And so, in some ways, actually, being able to understand that feeling of secure attachment from probably a psychological perspective, it's really important. That sense of safety to be yourself, the sense of safety to be able to say, okay, this is who I am. I can see that when this happened, I felt really bad about that. And because I feel so bad about what happened, I'm not looking at this because I'm afraid of who I might be. But I have to remember that I am divinity, or part of divinity, and that I can't be separated from that, and that it's okay to look at what happened. And when that happens, things free up, and the parts of you that got shut down open up. The reason parts of you shut down when these things happen is because the physical practices are there to help you be more aware of all the parts of you, so that when you're physically misaligned, you have an indicator that you're misaligned with your own self in some ways. But oftentimes, instead of using it as an indicator or something to support to become more authentic, oftentimes we try and use it to control, because that's what we think we're supposed to do. It's not even a bad thing. I mean, the whole world, it operates on control, and so we don't think in terms of looking at what's naturally going on. And so when we learn these things from the perspective of control, instead of actually just learning, and so on and so forth. So most likely, actually, what's going on is that as you're physically and energetically trying to align yourself, you're not emotionally aligning yourself. And then out of that, mentally aligning yourself, meaning as in being able to see an insight, where once you see how emotionally you've not been able to be authentic for whatever reason, as I mentioned before, once you release the emotion, you start seeing an insight mentally as to how you can be different moving forward. And that mental clarity of what wisdom is or truth is for whatever it is that you're dealing with is actually what gives you freedom and allows your mind and your heart, or your emotions more specifically, and your body to be aligned with your soul, and you feel undivided. And so only when these three manifestations, the mind, the emotions, and the instincts, align with your soul, do you feel undivided. And so all these practices are there to try and align these three different aspects of a person into unity with the soul, so that you're in truth with the part of you that is eternal, if you will. So anyway, so that's kind of like probably the full contextual background for what it might be helpful, or what might be helpful for you to look at.
Thank you, Master Kim. That definitely resonates.
Okay, good. I'm glad. And so thank you for, bringing something like that up. I feel like it was really powerful that you were able to do that. I'm sure that anyone listens, this is gonna help people, because I feel like this is like I feel like in some ways, this is the main struggle that everyone goes through. And I mean everyone. I feel like this is actually something that you struggle through, even if you know. So, because, things happen. Things just happen that are really difficult. And sometimes it's really unclear what the path is. And we struggle. And these practices just allow us to become a bit more conscious as to what is authentic with our soul.
I really like that, the way you phrase it, being authentic to your soul. That's a helpful. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad that you find it helpful. Okay, very good. Okay, good. So now I'm almost done cleaning here, but does anyone else have anything they'd like to share or comment on or ask any questions before we close for today? Okay, very good. So now thank you for all the sharing. Have a great day of learning how to really actually just be authentic in all the different ways of your being with your soul. Have a good day of cultivation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Master Kim.
Thank you, Master Kim.
Thank you, Master Kim.
You're welcome.